You asked me about Commander Cody. I haven't spoken of him in many years, but I remember him well. He was more than just a soldier, more than just another clone in the Grand Army of the Republic. He was my right hand, my most trusted commander, and in some ways, a friend. When I first met him, I thought of him as disciplined, efficient, one of many bred for war, trained to follow orders without question. But over time, I saw the man beneath the armor. Cody was sharp, perceptive. He had a sense of humor, dry but ever present. There were moments in the midst of battle when I'd glance at him and catch the smallest hint of amusement beneath that visor, as if he found something about the chaos of war ironic, even absurd. He was a strategist, always thinking 3 steps ahead. I relied on his instincts more times than I can count. During the Outer Rim sieges, I trusted him to handle entire campaigns in my absence, knowing he would make the right calls. Unlike many of his brothers, Cody never saw himself as just another soldier. He took pride in his leadership, in his ability to command. But in the end, he was still bound to his programming, and that was his tragedy. Cody and I fought side by side in battles too numerous to name: Christophsis, Teth, Umbara, Salukami, worlds now buried in the ashes of history. He never hesitated, never faltered. When the fight seemed unwinnable, he stood firm. That was Cody. I remembered a campaign on Salukami well. It was a grueling siege lasting months. The separatists had fortified their defenses, and we were forced into a slow, brutal advance. Cody barely rested, coordinating troop movements, ensuring supply lines stayed open. I offered him time to recuperate, but he refused. "Clones don't get tired, General," he said with a smirk. But I knew better. Despite his unwavering dedication, I often wondered what he truly thought of the war. He never spoke of it directly, but sometimes when the fighting had ceased, when the smoke cleared and we stood in the silence of another so-called victory, I saw it. The same doubt I carried. The quiet understanding that none of this would end the way we hoped. I should have spoken to him about it. Maybe if I had, things would have been different. Then came Utapau, our final battle together. We had cornered General Grievous at last. Cody and I led the assault, pushing through wave after wave of droids. He fought with his usual precision, his orders crisp and clear. We were close to victory. I remember handing him back his helmet after it was knocked aside in combat. He gave me a nod, just a simple gesture, but one that carried years of shared battlefields, of unspoken trust. And then, everything changed. I had barely caught my breath when he received the order. I didn't see it at first, but something in him shifted. His grip tightened on his rifle, his posture stiffened. And then, without hesitation, he gave the command. Blast him! One moment he was my ally. The next he was my executioner. I fell. The blast struck my position, sending me plummeting down into the waters below. If not for the force, if not for sheer luck, that would have been the end of me. I sometimes wonder, did Cody hesitate even for a second? Did he feel anything when he gave the order? I will never know. After Order 66, I spent years believing Cody had died along with the others, lost to the Empire's grip. I tried not to think of him. The weight of betrayal was already too heavy. But years later, I heard whispers. A clone who had broken free, who had abandoned his post. Commander Cody. I didn't want to believe it at first. I had buried that part of my past, locked it away along with everything else I had lost. But deep down, I knew it was true. Cody had always been different. He had followed orders, yes, but in his heart, he was never just another clone. Rumors spoke of him going into hiding, of vanishing from the Empire's ranks. Perhaps he saw what had become of the galaxy, of the Republic he once fought for, and could no longer stomach it. I will never know where he went. If he is still alive, I hope he found peace. The clones were bred for war, designed to serve, to obey. But Cody, he was more than that. I remember how he spoke to his men, not as mere subordinates, but as brothers. I remember the way he carried himself, the way he commanded respect, not through fear, but through loyalty. He was a soldier, yes. But in another life, in another time, he might have been something else. A leader of men, not of war. Perhaps in the end he found a way to be more than what he was made for. I like to think he did. Of all the losses I have endured, his betrayal was one of the most painful. And yet, I do not blame him. Not truly. It was never his choice. Sometimes late at night I still think of him. Not as the commander who gave the order to end my life. Not as the clone bred for war, but as the man who stood beside me through countless battles. The man who, despite everything, earned my respect, my trust. I wonder if he ever thinks of me, if somewhere out there in the vastness of the galaxy, he remembers the years we fought together. I hope, wherever he is, that he found something beyond the war, beyond the orders, beyond the Republic that used him and cast him aside. I hope he found freedom. There were moments, small, fleeting moments, when I wondered if Cody ever truly agreed with everything we were doing. Not in the sense of disloyalty, no, never. Cody was a soldier through and through, disciplined, unwavering. But beneath that, I sometimes caught a glimpse of something else. A thought unspoken, a hesitation so brief that only someone who knew him well would notice. Perhaps it was the way he lingered after a battle, watching over his men as they mourned the loss of their brothers. Or the way he would pause before relaying an order he did not fully understand. He was loyal to the Republic, but more than that, he was loyal to his men. He carried their burdens, their losses, as if they were his own. That was something I always respected about him. I often wonder what became of him after the war. The Empire had no use for commanders like Cody, men who thought, who questioned, who had seen the Jedi not just as generals but as comrades. Some say he continued to serve, adapt into a new chain of command. Others believe he disappeared, like so many of the old clones, ghosts of a war the galaxy was all too eager to forget. But if he did stay, if he did continue under the Empire, what was that like for him? Did he ever think back to Utapau? Did he ever hear my voice in his mind, giving an order, laughing in the middle of a mission, speaking to him as a brother rather than a superior? I do not believe Cody was a man who could so easily push aside the past. Unlike many of his brothers, he had no Jedi to hunt, no war to fight, just orders to follow. And without a purpose beyond war, what remained for men like him? I have heard stories, whispers, really, that some clones, those who survived, began to resist, that they saw the Empire for what it was and sought a different path. Could Cody have been one of them? I do not know. but I would like to believe that at some point he found his own way. Even now, when I look into the flames, I think of the last time I saw him, how quickly everything changed. One moment he was handing me my lightsaber. The next he was ordering my death. Was it just the chip? Or was there some part of him that hesitated, that tried to fight against it? I will never know. But I do know this. Cody was not just a clone. He was a person, a soldier, a leader, and once a friend. Perhaps in the end, that was what made it hardest, because I did not just lose a commander that day. I lost one of the few people who truly understood what it meant to fight for something greater than themselves. The Jedi fought for the Republic. The clones fought for the Republic. But what was the Republic fighting for? And when it all ended, when the lines were redrawn and the war was over, where did that leave them? The clones were created for war. They were never meant to grow old, never meant to retire, to build lives for themselves. I sometimes wonder if Cody realized that before I did, if he saw the truth before any of us did, that none of this was ever about peace, that the war was not meant to be won, only continued until its true purpose was fulfilled. And if he did see it, if he did understand it, what did that knowledge do to him? I cannot imagine a world in which Cody simply accepted his fate. He was too strong-willed, too determined, but he was also bound by duty, trained from birth to follow orders without question. I think that is what pains me most, the thought that even if he did regret it, even if he did want to change his path, he may have never allowed himself to. A soldier follows orders. That is what he was created for. And yet, somewhere deep within him, I hope there was still something more. Maybe if he had been given the choice, he would have chosen a different path. Maybe if the war had never happened, he could have been something else, a leader, a brother, a free man. But that is not the life he was given. And so, all I can do now is wonder, and hope that wherever he is, he found peace.